Kind of like a Panasonic LX3 Olympus XZ2 competitor. Premium compact camera from 2010, 11, 12.
Some cameras fly completely under the radar. The press hardly covers them when they release, and as the years go on, they get lost and forgotten about. And this here is one of those cameras. This is the Samsung TL500 or EX1, depending where you buy it. Let me show you the good and bad of this camera and share some pictures I've taken with it, and stick around until the end so I can tell you about some things I don't like about it. It's totally fine by me if some great cameras get less attention than others. For one, it means the lower price and less competition in bidding wars, which I regularly participate in. And then there's just something oddly satisfying about using a camera that no one else uses or even seems to know exists. And I'm not even sure where I first heard about the Samsung TL500. Probably one of you told me about it. It's a competitor to many cameras I've looked at in the past and some that I've even owned, like the Pentax MX-1, Panasonic LX3, Olympus XZ series, and more. By the way, you can find all those cameras and this camera on my website, classiccameradatabase.com, if you want to dive more into detailed specs. But however I learned about it, I came across a cheap one on Mercari a couple months ago and decided to go for it. Before I bought it, I did a quick search on YouTube and found almost no videos about it, except a few from 12 years ago, and that's the same for blog-based reviews as well, which is crazy. This camera is too good not to be shown off right here, right now. So here goes. The Samsung TL500 has a 1/1.7 inch 10 megapixel CCD sensor with a 24 to 72 millimeter equivalent lens. That is f1.8 on the wide end and drops to only f2.4 on the long end. And I love that it gets as wide as 24 millimeters on the wide end, as I find the difference between that and the more common 28 millimeters to be quite large. And while 72 millimeters doesn't give you that much reach, it does cover what we like to call the normal range of photography pretty well. Pretty versatile lens. While Olympus uses its Zyko lens branding and Panasonic leans on Leica for its lenses, the Samsung has a maybe lesser known but equally experienced lens brand collaboration. Schneider Kreuznach. There's no way I'm saying that correctly. Maybe not as familiar to everyday digital photographers, but Schneider has a long history of making lenses for such giants as Hasselblad, Kodak, and Phase 1, among many, many others. So it's a super neat piece of history to see their name stamped on this digital camera, even if it's maybe just marketing. But regardless of how much of that is marketing, the lens performs really well in my opinion. I found it usably sharp, even wide open on the wide and long end, including in the edges. There's no embarrassing fringing or flare, just an overall nice piece of glass. It also has optical image stabilization instead of sensor stabilization like the Olympus XZ1 or Pentax MX-1 has. I can't compare the performance between these two directly because I don't own the MX-1 anymore, but I think it worked well enough and is certainly better than nothing. Well appreciated feature. The camera body itself is a bit larger than some premium compact cameras, and I think that's mostly due to this fully articulating huge screen, which I'll talk about in just a second. But despite this, you can easily pocket this camera in most pairs of pants. I think the rubberized grip on the front is comfy, but a bit small. Since the lens protrudes further anyway, I would have liked this to be a little bit bigger. Up at the top, there's a main mode dial to choose from manual or priority modes, and one to choose the shooting mode. This dial seems like a waste to me personally, as I don't regularly switch between timed and burst modes on the fly. And then over here on the side, there's a small pop-up flash that works really nicely. As just an aside, I found that the flash metering built into the camera works really well for some natural looking flash shots. Settings are quickly changed by this clever front dial in the grip, which I love. It spins and clicks in. And that dual action idea continues onto the rear with the 4-way pad that has a rotating outer ring, also allowing quick setting changes. And while I love the controls overall, trying to one-hand this thing and change settings can be a real struggle. Moving my fingers over to rotate either dial means loosening my grip on the camera significantly. Compare this to the one-handed champion, the Ricoh GR, where everything can be done without moving your hands from a normal, comfortable shooting position. And I think this is mostly due to that huge articulating screen forcing the buttons to cram too close to the side of the camera. But that huge camera might be worth it for some of you. Yes, it does fully articulate for low angle, high angle, and even front-facing shots. The availability of having an articulating screen there is, in my opinion, a feature that really sets it apart, and it's something that I use quite often for awkward angles. Is it enough to warrant the larger size, weight, and awkward button placement? I'll let you decide. Now to the images. It took me a while to enjoy the images that came out of this camera. Colors weren't quite what I was used to out of their standard JPEG profiles, but then I had two breakthroughs: shooting RAW or shooting the retro profile. First, the camera shoots RAW files in the SRW format, and I found them to have plenty of detail, in large part thanks to the nice lens and that tried and true 1/1.7" CCD sensor. I only made minor tweaks to get the colors where I liked them, and when I did push or pull the shadows more significantly, I found enough detail when I needed it. But then second, the real hidden gem here are some of the specialty JPEG profiles. I know this is pretty subjective, but I really enjoyed the retro profile. The browns and oranges in contrast of this profile reminded me a lot of my Ricoh GR's positive film profile. Not at all identical, but similar. There's other profiles too, like a forest profile that makes everything look green, and a calm profile that seems kind of like the retro idea, but cooler tones in the blue and purples. Now, you don't buy a camera for JPEG profiles, but it was a pleasant and fun surprise in finding these here. Now to the bad stuff. There are only two downsides to this camera for me. One was the battery life. I took this camera and two batteries on a trip with my family, and it was dead by the second day. Now I looked up, and that CPR rating is about the same as its competitors, so I don't really know what's up with that. But just as an FYI, probably wouldn't hurt to pick up a few spare batteries. And then the second thing, and a bigger deal to me, was the autofocus. It is slow, and this is coming from a guy who loves to shoot old cameras. Not only was it slow, it would frequently just give up and give me that red box telling me that it couldn't confirm focus. And that was more than any other camera I've ever tested. Besides those two downsides, I think the Samsung TL500 or EX1 is a great overlooked premium compact camera with all the features you need to take some great pictures. Another premium compact camera you might be thinking about is the Pentax MX-1. So click on this video and let me tell you more about it. Until next time, happy snapping.